How did you eventually get the Rangers job then? Because you go from being a minor league hockey and women's basketball broadcaster to suddenly one of the voices of the Texas Rangers. Tell us how that happened.
Yeah, it's a total miracle. It was really, really fluky. All the things that had to fall into place. In the summer of 1978, I had been the voice of the Dallas Blackhawks for 2 years. They were the AAA affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And at the end of that season, in April or May, Jim Gregory, the general manager of the Maple Leafs, had told me that I was going to be out of a job because they were moving their franchise to Moncton, New Brunswick. And they couldn't take an American with them to Canada to broadcast hockey games. They'd have to give the job to a Canadian. So I was going to be without a job, and they were kind enough to keep paying me for a few months during the time it took to close up the offices in Dallas. And in the meantime, completely out of the blue, I got a phone call one day from a guy named Roy Parks, who was the director of the Rangers radio and TV network. And he asked if I would be interested in working for the Rangers, that he had a couple of jobs open, one of which was as a part-time announcer to start the following year. And the other was as an advertising salesperson who would also put together the Rangers radio and TV network. And we had lunch one day, and he asked me if I had broadcast baseball before, and I lied and told him that I had. And then when he asked for an audition tape and I didn't have one, I told him, it's been 6 years. I wouldn't want him to hear that tape anyway. And he said, well, why don't you come out and audition by recording some games? And I actually went out to the old Arlington Stadium. I believe this was in July, maybe in early August of 1978. And I recorded an entire 4-game series into a tape recorder. And Roy and whoever else was involved in the decision listened to the first couple of innings of the first game and the last few innings of the last game, saw how much progress I had made, and decided that by the time the next year rolled around, when I was only going to be doing 30 games, that I would be at least adequate and wouldn't embarrass anybody. And then in the meantime, I had told Roy, I'll do both jobs. I was accustomed to selling advertising in my minor league hockey jobs, so that was nothing different for me, even though big league announcers weren't selling advertising in the off-season. I told him I would do both jobs, and I think he saw the opportunity to take a chance on a guy who had some potential. He was only going to do 30 games. The Rangers weren't that